All right, everyone. Again, welcome to our CNAMB Certification Essentials broadcast. I'm so excited that you all have joined us this afternoon or evening, depending on your time zone, to hear more, learn more about one of CCI's newest credentials that has now fully launched and is available to our perioperative nurses in ambulatory surgery settings. So during our time together this evening, we're going to be talking about what it takes to be eligible for this credential, what's on the exam, how you can prepare, and how you can recertify. So before we get really rolling, I just want to ask everybody a favor if you can go to the chat feature and just let me know that you can hear me and maybe say hello, where you're listening in from. That would be great. And feel free to also capture your questions in the chat as we go so that we can get to those here at the end. Hello, I see we've got some responses already. That's great. So I have a little bit of housekeeping to kick us off. Our lawyers have us put this disclaimer. I'll just be candid with you. That's where it comes from, because it's really important that I make it really clear that CCI's role is as a certification organization. We develop and administer examinations and more as we move forward, assessments and reflections for nurses in the perioperative setting. That being said, we don't require or endorse any type of specific study guides, review products, or training courses. We certainly offer them to you, but ultimately it's up to you as a nurse who knows yourself and your journey better than anybody else. It's up to you how you want to prepare and how you want to fortify yourself with materials for your professional development journey. So the CCI review materials, they're never requirement for testing, and we don't guarantee that their use implies successful performance on our examinations. But we do have these resources available for you. Some are paid, some are free, but none are prerequisites. All right. So Dawn Whiteside is actually our Director of Education at CCI, and a lot of times she just joins these webinars and provides some really valuable expertise on these types of webinars. And I think she'll probably be joining us a little bit later, but I'm getting us rolling here. So I will introduce myself. My name is Carissa. I'm the Senior Manager of Test Development and Certification at CCI. I really like my job because I have the honor of developing the exams themselves and working with our subject matter experts who are nurses that help us develop the content, review the exams. My team gets to interact with all of our nurses on a day-to-day basis. So if you call or email CCI, you're going to be talking to one of my team, and I'm just so proud of them. They're doing such a good job these days. So, but if you ever need anything too on, how to recertify, am I eligible? It's my team and I are here to answer all those questions for you too. So here's what we're going to be tackling tonight. We are going to first define the value of certification. We need to talk about some of the things that make certification worthwhile for nurses who are already very busy juggling career and family and hobbies and COVID and everything. Why does this make sense for you? And then we're going to get into development of the CNAMB exam itself. We're going to pull back the curtain and look at exactly what goes into creating the exam. How when you sit down at the testing site or when you sit down at your computer to do a remote exam, I want to show you what goes into making the exam, because it's so much more resource intense and so much more complicated than people think. And the reason I want to show you that is just so you're confident in the value that you're getting when you take one of these exams. We'll go over the eligibility requirements. We'll go into the exam itself, and look at, you know, the different subject areas you'll see. And then last but not least, we'll discuss resources available to you to best prepare yourself for your test day.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, Carissa. Sorry I'm late.
Hi, Dawn. Welcome.
Hello. Excellent job.
Thanks. We just finished going over objectives.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'll let you take it from here.
Take over this part for you. Thank you. So this one is, obviously, we're going to talk about the value of certification like Carissa talked about. Next slide, please.
You got it.
So the definition of certification, we are accredited, our credentials are accredited by different accreditation organizations. Our primary one is the American Board of Specialty Nursing Certification, ABSNC, and their definition of certification is recognized as the formal recognition of specialized knowledge, skills, and experience demonstrated by the achievement of standards identified by a nursing specialty to promote optimal patient outcomes. So basically, it's what we do every day when we go to work. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our patients, but getting certified is really an added bonus, if you will, of verifying that we have gone beyond our intro to practice and we're really focused on the specialized knowledge, skills, and experience required to provide competent and safe care to our patients. So CNAMB, voluntary certification. Your facility may or may not require certification, but it is voluntary in general. And it validates the achievement of those standards we just talked about by a registered nurse within the perioperative environment, specifically ambulatory surgery. So advantages, what are the advantages of certification? It's a great way to demonstrate your commitment to proficiency, continued professional development to the public, also to your peers and co-workers. It demonstrates professional growth and accountability. So you're looking beyond what you do every day to really focus on what can you do to develop your skills and knowledge and continue to grow. Personal accountability and achievement is part of personal satisfaction. We've done several surveys and, you know, ask people, why do you value being certified? And the number one response is usually it makes, you know, me feel better. I'm personally satisfied and it makes me happy that I've achieved this. So it's really an internal source of satisfaction. And Carissa, who is the test development queen, is going to talk about this part.
Thanks, everyone. So as I promised earlier, we're gonna peek into the development process of the CNAMB exam. And a lot of what we're talking about is the same. Also, if you're considering taking the CNOR exam or the CSSM exam, process is all the same because we follow procedures that live up to industry best standards so that we can meet those accreditation requirements that Dawn was talking about. So the process is really designed to be scientifically rigorous. Like I said, it's based on industry standards, because perioperative nursing, it's its own professional ecosystem. Well, certification has its own professional ecosystem too, and we want to live up to those standards to make sure our processes are accredited at the start, which is where we are with CNAMB, and then that we maintain that accreditation throughout the entire life of the credential. We maintain it. All of our policies and our test development processes have to fit, have to be reviewed and pass muster. So CCI actually just started working with a brand new testing partner. We work with PSI starting January of 2021, which we're really excited about. And they play a big role in our exam development because they actually provide support from psychometricians. And I promise you that's not a made-up word. Psychometricians actually study research methods, statistics, human behavior, and they combine all that knowledge into really scientifically evaluating each question, each exam item, upwards, downwards, backwards, forwards. They look at these questions, how they perform, how these questions differentiate between people that are really high performers on the exam versus those that maybe struggled a little bit on the exam. So in addition to providing all that scientific support, our PSI partners also administer the exam. So after you sign up for the exam, we're going to talk about how that works. When you go to, on the day of your exam, big day, when you go to the test site, if that's the route you choose, you'll go to a PSI testing center. Or if you're taking the exam from home, you'll use PSI's secure software. They also do all the scoring of the exams, which is a whole test development process in and of itself. And once you finish your exam, the way we've set up the scoring now is as soon as you finish the exam, you'll know whether you pass or fail right away. And you'll get a score report showing your strengths and your areas of opportunity, broken down by area on the exam. And that report will come from PSI. And then last but not least, they maintain the test question bank, which is our big bank of exam questions that are all kept. If they're not on a current exam that's in the field, they're kept in reserve for the next version after review. Only will we put them on. So, Dawn on the call, she's a nurse. Carissa is not a nurse. Carissa is not qualified to actually weigh in on the test content itself. So that's why I have the honor of working with certified nurses who come in and work with CCI as subject matter experts. This is also mandated by our accreditation agencies, and with good reason, because we need nurses coming in from different areas within the ambulatory setting, folks from all different areas of the country, folks with different education levels, folks who are brand new to practice, folks that have been in practice for a long time. As long as they hold an active CNAMB certification, they may apply to serve on the test development committee and actually do this work to develop the exam, to write the questions, to review the questions, to make sure the questions are grounded in current references. And Dawn's going to go through those here too. So keep that in mind as you consider CNAMB certification, because once you get it, once you pass your exam, you'll be eligible to do this. And if you're asking the question, well, what's in it for me? Then working on these committees offers you points towards your CNAMB recertification. And in pre-COVID era, CCI, my team, we would fly our nurses in, we'd put y'all up at a nice hotel and feed you really well, and then do a lot of hard test development work. But as of right now with COVID, all of our committees are remote. They're still a really great experience, but just throwing that out there as far as expectation goes. And one of the most important parts of test development is the job analysis. This is really the foundation of the CNAMB exam, because before we could even begin to write the exam or have the fun of writing exam questions, we had to do a part of the process where we take a step back and we look at ambulatory surgery, perioperative nursing as a whole and say, okay, what does a nurse have to know? And what does a nurse have to do to be successful and competent in this role? And that's a whole process right there to answer that question. It typically takes about 6 months to get through this process. We have multiple committees, we have multiple calls or psychometric analyses. Often we'll deploy a survey that our nurse volunteers help us design so that we can get descriptive information about these tasks and skills and knowledge required for competent practice, specifically in this role. All right, I think I've nerded out about test development enough. Dawn, is it back to you now?
Sure.
Okay.
So eligibility requirements, what the application looks like, and the approval process. That's what we're going to talk about now. So CNAMB exam eligibility, certification and education status. So you do not hold an accredited perioperative related credential. Then you need your current employment in an ambulatory surgery setting. It can be freestanding. It can be, combined with a regular facility. 2 years and 2,400 hours of experience. That's and, not or, and 50 points. You must have a current unrestricted license and currently employed. If you do have an accredited perioperative related credential, that can be CNOR. If you do pre or post-op, you could have CPAN or CAPA, anything like that. You're currently employed and you're in an ambulatory surgery setting. And those are differentiated whether you have your associate degree or your bachelor's degree or higher. And for the application process, on our website, if you go to the top and it says learn, there's a drop down and you can click on the CNAMB and it'll take you to this location where you can decide if you're actually eligible. So making sure you go through your eligibility before you go through the application process. So confirm your eligibility. Decide when you want to take the exam. So you apply and are approved 1 month, and then you have the next 3 months to actually schedule and take your exam. Once applications open, you submit your application. There is a randomized audit process. So many people, a certain percentage get audited. If you are audited, then items on the application you will be required to show proof of. So you would have to, we would contact your employer, verify employment, nursing license, those kind of things you would have to supply. So when you apply, you'll either, get your approval, which is different now. That we've switched to PSI, and you would register to set up your appointment through PSI, and that's all done on the website itself. So again, schedule your exam online. So if you've not been into your CCI account lately, I would highly recommend it. Once you do log in, you can look at your that's where you do your application. And when you are approved, you will then see a link that says schedule testing PSI, and then that would take you to the registration for your test itself. Again, if you apply and are approved in March, then you would have April, May, and June to take your exam. Things we recommend: downloading the CNAMB candidate handbook that has all the specific information about eligibility, application, content on the exam. All of that information is in there. It's free. You can download it. And there is a take two option available. And that means if you're not successful the first time, you could take it the second time for free. I believe it's a $50 addition to the regular certification application fee.
Correct. And Dawn, can I jump in and add a pro tip about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you apply for certification, even if you're just exploring it and you create a CCI account, or even if you're someone who has 3 different credentials, you will only ever need one CCI account. So if you've made one in the past and you're having trouble getting into it, some folks make a new account. This can really confuse things and cause you trouble. So I'm going to advise you not to do that. If you can't get into your account, just call my team. We can get you back in right away. Back to you, Dawn.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, that creating more than one account can really confuse a lot of different things, especially after you're certified and trying to earn your points for recertification. So definitely don't create a second one. If you did by accident, just call and we can merge those accounts so you can get back on track. Okay, components of the CNAMB exam. What is actually on the exam and how do you know? So this is how the exam is broken down. We have domains or subject areas. There are 9 subject areas, and then the percentage and number of items. So this is where that job analysis team comes in, your peers who do this every single day, that volunteer. They go through and they say, I spend 14% of my day doing preoperative patient assessment and diagnosis. Obviously, intraoperative is where most of us spend most of our time. So that's 20%. And then that corresponds to the number of items. So intraoperative, there'll be 37 questions on intraoperative patient care on the exam itself. So this is how it's broken down. And then those 9 different domains or topic areas. Then we break it down even further. So they are broken down into task and knowledge statements. And this is content that would be covered on the exam. Since I'm on the education side, I never see the exam. I am not allowed to know what questions are on the exam. I know the content because it's the task and knowledge statements. So even though I know the topics that are there, I would never know what actual questions are on there. And that's based on the task and knowledge statements. So that again is in the candidate handbook. So each of those domains or subject areas is broken down into task, which is the actual nursing intervention that you perform, and then knowledge statements, which is the information you need to know to be able to provide those nursing interventions. And we'll show you examples. So here's an example, subject area 1, pre and post-operative patient assessment and diagnosis. So task statement, these are nursing interventions that you perform every day. Confirm patient identity with 2 identifiers, confirm procedure site, side site if applicable, there's a consent, review relevant patient data, formulate nursing diagnosis. So these are the task statements, some of them associated with subject area 1. Then we'll look at knowledge statements. So basically, what do you need to know to perform those nursing interventions? So you need to know about anatomy and physiology. You need to know about the different diagnostic procedures, lab tests, age-appropriate health assessment techniques. You may never do peds. You may never do geriatrics, but those are things that would be covered on the exam. And then, of course, nursing diagnosis, NANDA, and then the PNDS. So the exam itself is 200 questions. Like Carissa said, you'll find out if you pass or not that day. You have 3 hours and 45 minutes to take the exam, which usually averages out to about a minute per question, which doesn't sound like a lot of time, but when you start doing practice questions, you'll see that you have plenty of time to do that. Can be taken Monday through Saturday, except for holidays, and you can do it at the testing center or the remote secure proctoring at home.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. So as soon as you commit and you sign up, I highly recommend you go ahead and schedule your appointment. Just because the more time you give yourself, if you're at the beginning of your 3-month window and you're looking right away, you'll have so many more appointment opportunities than if you wait till later in your window. This becomes the biggest problem at the end of the year. People are trying to finish up their professional development and they're trying to sneak in an exam in December, and that can get really tricky. So give yourself the best shot at getting the exact appointment day and time that you want by scheduling early. And if you do need to reschedule, because life does happen, you will have up to 48 hours, business day hours, to cancel or reschedule ahead of your appointment.
And again, all that type of information is in the handbook, so that I would definitely download that from the website. Okay, so what the exam is and what it isn't. So it is a validation of the knowledge related to current best practice. Any question you are asked is assuming you have the best of everything. You have, 25 C-arms available, so you're not having to wait for, radiology or C-arm to come into the room. You have all the staff you need. So the questions are based on ideal practice. You have all the staff, the time, and the resources you need. And it's built for a nurse with 2 years of experience. So this is sometimes where you really need to step back and take a look if you have years and years of experience. So if you have, 10, 15, 20 years of experience, we tend to look at the situations, at the questions, and just intuitively know what we would do. Well, you have to step back and look at it from the experience of someone with 2 years. They don't get that, full expert, proficient level of looking at the big picture and figuring it out. They have to step back, do the nursing process, and go through the steps. So keeping that in mind when you're taking the exam. What it is not, it's not based on your individual practice or your hospital policy. So if there is a question about counting, your hospital policy may say the first thing you do if something's missing is redo the count, look under the table, look in this, the garbage. But the best practice is what is standard across the country. We can't test for what your hospital in Texas says is the right thing to do, or your hospital in Connecticut says is the right thing to do. We have to base the questions on what the best current standard of practice is. And for that type of a question, it would be the AORN guidelines for perioperative practice. And what they say is the first thing you do is notify the surgeon. When we give these talks, sometimes we'll give a practice question like that, and every single time we are pretty much 50-50. 50% of the people on the call will say, tell the surgeon, 50% will say, repeat the count. So it's based on what the standard of practice is. It's not your policy. It's not what you do. It's based on the best standard of practice. So keep that in mind. It's not focused on a single surgical specialty. Most of my perioperative career of 34 years, I did cardiac surgery for the majority of that. I never did eyes. I never did neuro. So if I'm taking the exam and I'm asked a question about a patient coming in for a cataract surgery on the stretcher and positioning, the first thing I'm going to do is freak out because they said eye surgery, and I don't know anything about that. But again, taking a step back, the patient is supine on a stretcher. You know how to position a patient supine, regardless of what the specialty is. You're looking at the patient from a positioning aspect, not a specialty aspect. And we do have people who will come out afterwards and go, oh my gosh, there were 30 questions on neurosurgery. Well, there weren't, but that's tend to where we focus, is if there's something on there we're not comfortable with, we're not familiar with, that's where we focus. So it's based on the nursing process. You may get an anatomy question about ophthalmology or neurosurgery. But in general, it's nursing process, what you need to focus on to take care of your patient. Resources. What do you need to study and prepare for the exam? So no one resource is going to, be the be all end all. And that goes for our prep courses. We never say just do our prep courses or just do our practice exams. There has to be a mix of prep resources that you use. So questions on the exam are based on different books and resources. So current national standards of practice. So we have the perioperative guidelines from AORN, evidence-based practice. They could be Joint Commission, CDC, CMS, any of that evidence-based content. It has to be accessible to everyone. And again, no single resource. So using information from all of the different standards of practice that you can find is the best option. And of course, using the resources that the exam questions are written from. So one of the first resources, again, the guidelines for perioperative practice. They also have position statements on the AORN website. And we always say the most current edition. So even though this is a picture of the 2020 guidelines, we should be looking at the 2021 for your studying for this year. The guidelines are expensive. So if you have one, we get the question, I have one from 2019, can I use it? Well, you can, we don't recommend it, but every year they update a certain percentage of the guidelines. So if you have a 2018 guideline, you can see that in 2019, these guidelines were updated. So if you can find someone with a 2019 book, you can ask them to get information about these guidelines. You can, maybe if you belong to AORN or you have an AORN chapter, your educator, that you could borrow, an updated version. So we like to provide the updated guidelines for each of the previous years. So you know what you would need to look for if you don't have the current version. So this is what was updated in 2019. And then we have what was updated in 2020. And then 2021. If you have the digital version of the guidelines, they don't wait to, the new guidelines come out January, February of the year. So January, February 2021, these guidelines were just published on the paper version. But if you have the digital version, they updated laser safety, I don't know, maybe June of 2020. So it was already updated in the digital version. But if you're getting the actual print version, you'll get those updates January, February of the following year. Other resources, you need a perioperative specific textbook. So we recommend one or the other. You don't need both. So Alexander's Care of the Patient in Surgery, that's by Jane Rothrock. So that's the most current edition. So that book, or also you could use Phillips Burying Cones Operating Room Technique. That just came out in 2021. So that is another version. So one or the other, you don't need both. Hopefully your ORs have one or both of these books to use as a study tool for you. And then the fourth book is newer, and this is Drains Peri-Anesthesia Nursing. This was added specifically for the CNAMB, but this is also now added to the CNOR because ambulatory surgery has a larger focus on pre and post-operative patient care. This is a really good book that addresses those areas to help you study. Optional resources, having access to a pathophysiology textbook, medical dictionary, any lab or diagnostic reference. You may have an intranet that has a lot of that diagnostic information in it. Anatomy coloring books. I love this human body coloring book. I did a book review for that for the AORN Journal. It really takes you through the process of the anatomy, the physiology, and then you get to the coloring part of it. It's a really good option. I think it's like $20. The AORN Journal, again, if you're not a member, somebody in your hospital probably is. And the AORN Journal goes over guidelines that they update and all types of evidence-based practice information. AAMI standards, your central sterile processing department would have the AAMI standards because it's about medical instrumentation. And then some type of drug reference. We like to use Hippocrates because it's consistently updated, and you can get that as an app or you can look at that online. Then resources that are at your facility. You know, while you're doing a case, talk to anesthesia. Ask them why are they using propofol? Why are they using midazolam? All those different things. What are some reversal drugs they use? So using the resources that you have at your actual site. Take a trip down to the lab or pathology. Use the resources you have available to help you through that study process as well. Free CCI study aids. We do have a CNAMB study plan on our website. Again, download. We have a readiness to test survey, which is basically you doing a self-assessment of where you feel your current knowledge level is and where you have opportunity to seek more. CNOR coaches, even though it's CNAMB, there's, I think, over 250 CNOR coaches across the United States. So seeking out one of those to help you with a study plan. The staff obviously is always available at CCI. And then we have webinars like this that are recorded, and these are posted on our website. This is a picture of what the study plan looks like. I would use this as a self-assessment as well. So you can see that Domain 1, Subject Area 1, the preoperative patient assessment and diagnosis, 14% of the exam. So what our nurse manager, Julie, has done is gone through with those task and knowledge statements, pulled out keywords, and then the resources that we talked about, the guidelines, Alexander's, Burying Cones, peri-anesthesia, and she'll go down sometimes to page numbers to get information on universal protocol. Then there's other ones like obviously the Joint Commission, which is the primary universal protocol reference. Informed consent, again, down here, pathophysiology. So you're going to get all of these references. Again, this is free. You can download it. I would go through each of the subject areas, highlight areas where you feel like you need more study time, and then, you know, look at the reading assignments you can do. Again, you don't have to have Baring-Cohen's and Alexander's, one or the other.
Dawn, I'll admit this is the first time I've taken a really close, hard look at the study plan, and this is awesome.
Yeah, Julie does a great job of pulling all this information out.
Very nice.
And again, other online resources, CCI, ARN, they have those position statements. They have toolkits. They have all kinds of information on there. Some are member only access. One of the things that I think is a really important resource on their website, and I think it is now open and available to anyone, is their perioperative explications. And that's where you're going to really get the focus on the professional accountability. So the ANA Code of Ethics, ARN has taken those Code of Ethics and then pulled out that information and applied it to the perioperative specialty and what it looks like in the perioperative role as opposed to in general ANA. So that is on the ARN website. It's under a heading called Ethics, I think. So that's a really good one. And then again, those primary websites, Joint Commission, World Health Organization. You're going to have CDC, CMS. MHouse, anything related to malignant hyperthermia is going to be on the MHouse website. AHRQ, all of these are great resources. Study products. The main thing we say is make sure whatever, if you're going to purchase an item to prepare for the exam, make sure their references for the material that they're providing you come from the current resources. So we already know questions on the exam come from ARN guidelines, Alexander's, Baring-Cohen's, and then Odom Forum peri-anesthesia. If you're purchasing or using any study product that is not using those as a reference, you're wasting your time and your money. That's not where the questions are coming from. I will say on a personal front, not as an employee of CCI, I've called some prep companies and said, what are you using? What are your references? And the only answer I got was our nurses' experience. They could not tell me any of these, you know, book resources where the actual exam questions come from. So, you know, do your investigation, make sure if you're going to buy something or use free study aids that they're based on the current resources that the exam is based on. We do offer products, not required to take the exam. It doesn't imply that you'll do better if you do, but we have products in our bookstore as well. We have an on-demand prep course that you can do at your own pace. Recertification.
Yes, I will take it from here as we talk about what happens once you pass the exam, that awesome feeling. What happens next? And this is so important because a big part of certification, you know, it isn't just about passing the exam and then going on our merry way and not thinking about the material anymore. Certification is meant to be a framework for a lifelong learning and demonstrating that by holding your certification, not only did you pass an exam, but you're maintaining your professional development. So let's talk about what that looks like for CNAMB. Okay. If you're familiar with CNOR, there's things that are similar about CNAMB, and there's some really important things that are different and very progressive. So CNAMB is a 3-year certification. What that means is when you take your exam, whether you take the exam in December or January, that represents the first year of your certification cycle. And in this example, that is 2021. So if you look at the chart, and visuals really help me. I really need visuals when I'm trying to envision a process like this. So in this example, you earn your credential in the year 2021. So that's year 1. So big things happen in year 1. You pass the exam, you look at your score report, and you look at those breakdowns of basically how well you did in those different domains that Dawn showed us. And based on that score report, based on that diagnostic information, what we're going to ask you to do is go back into your CCI account with 30 days passing the exam, and you're going to complete a reflection form. I think it's 2 or 3 pages. Folks have told me that for similar reflection forms that we have going for other credentials right now, it takes less than an hour. But what it's meant to do is it's meant to get the processes in your brain flowing. You're thinking, okay, here's areas I did great in, here's areas where I have opportunities. You know, how am I going to build my professional development plan for the next 3 years? What do I want to do? Like, what are some opportunities that I have available at my facility or in my community, or am I going back to school? Like, there's so many different ways you can earn points. And CCI is actively expanding the library of activities that will get you points for recertification. I mean, every year we add stuff. So that's your opportunity to kind of map that out. So you submit that, and then you start earning your points in year 1, year 2, year 3. Those are your 3 years where you're accruing and you're earning points. And I highly recommend when you earn them, when you complete a CE course, when you do a volunteer activity, when you do your BLS training, just log it in your CCI account right away. Make it easier on yourself when you roll into year 4. Because year 4 is when you're gonna need to recertify. You'll go into your CCI account, you make sure all your activities are logged that you did in the preceding 3 years, and you're going to do another reflection. You're going to think about how well things worked out for you, things that maybe didn't work out as well as you thought they might during your previous 3 years, and basically map out the next cycle. Give yourself another framework, maybe something even new and improved, adjusted to fit, you know, your changing goals, whatever works best for you. We just want to give you that opportunity to write it down and think about it. So now that you're in your second cycle, that's what this is going to look like. And there's one thing I want to point out here. So if I go back here, you'll notice that you recertified in 2024, right? Then 2024 becomes year 1 of your next cycle. All the activities you did in that year count towards the following, this next recert period. When I first started working with CCI, it took me a minute to wrap my head around it. So if it takes you a minute too, that's totally fine. You need more help, call my team. We'll walk through it together personally based on your cycle. And then rinse and repeat. You earn those points. You do another reflection form when it's your year to recertify. Now, if you get to year 4 and life happened, you know, whatever the reason may be, and you think, man, I need a little extra time, CCI does offer the opportunity once every 2 cycles to purchase an extension year. That gives you an additional year to continue earning points. So keep that in the back of your head. There is a fee associated with purchasing an extension year, but I want to mention it so people know that's an option. If you're ever at a stage where you think, well, do I need an extension year? Do I not? Do I have enough points? Call my team. You know, and we'll even get the CEO involved if we need to review, you know, your activities, your CEs, whatever it is, and decide what makes the most sense for you. All right, it's time for questions. And Dawn, I think we've got some that are already typed in.
Yes, I've been answering some questions as we go.
Oh, nice.
One of the questions, can you go back to slide 18?
My pleasure.
So this is to answer Colleen about what is the difference between CNOR and CNAMB. So this is what the CNAMB looks like. CNOR is going to look similar. There's 7 domains, which has a lot of this content. It's just distributed differently. But the main difference is CNAMB, there's a much higher percentage in your pre and post-operative areas than there is in the CNOR. So number of questions, the weight of that content is different, but the actual content itself is very similar. The other difference is your CNOR is good for 5-year certification, CNAMB is 3. And we do have a lot of questions at the end of the year about that cycle. Like Carissa said, it can get confusing. But keep in mind, if you take the exam and you pass December 4th of 2021, any of those activities you've done that are worth points beginning January 1st of 2021 will count towards your recertification cycle. So if you got your BLS renewed this month and you take and pass your exam in December of this year, you can use your BLS for points that you earned this month. So keep that in mind. The other thing we get a lot of questions about is we will get people call us looking at this certification cycle. We'll get people calling us December 31st of 2023 and go, oh my gosh, I don't know, I didn't get all my stuff entered. What do I do? What do I do? You don't have to get it entered by December 31st, 2023. You have to have earned it through 21, 22, and 23. And even if you have earned it all, it's all logged, you're ready to go, you will not be able to click on that recertify button. It won't even be there until January 1st of 2024. So we've talked a lot of people off the ledge on December 31st to say, okay, you've earned everything, you're good. As long as you have it entered into your profile by the end of 2024, you're good. You'll get a discount if you do it before July. But keep that in mind. Anything you do this year, beginning January 1st, month and a half ago, 2 months ago, through the end of 2023 will count towards your recertification. And like Carissa said, tons of activities on our website. If you certified and passed tomorrow, you could go this weekend onto our website and get 300 points. Is it 300, Carissa? Points worth of activities to recertify, and you'd be done until 2024.
I think it's 300 for CNOR. It's a little less for CNAMB since it's a shorter cycle.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember.
I actually can't either. Well, I will look in the handbook.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of information. Let me see. Hopefully that answered your question, Colleen. If not, let me know. You're welcome for the information. Can you use the same CEUs points for both CNAMB and CNOR recertification?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes, you can. And one of the points activities is additional perioperative certification. So like I'm certified as a nurse educator for NPD, Nursing Professional Development, and I can use that certification for points towards my recertification. So if you have CSSM, CNOR, you can use those as points activities as well. and CPAN, Kappa, any of those that are perioperative related. And if you're not sure, again, call, talk to Carissa's team and they will tell you if it would count or not. Okay. I think they've all been answered. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. If you have any, definitely give us a call. There are nurses on staff, Julie, myself, our CEO, Jim, if you have specific nursing questions. But our credentialing team that answers the phone and answers the info email are very well versed in all of this, and they can help you certainly at any time. So thank you, Carissa, for getting this started and doing this presentation with me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks to all of our attendees.
Yes. All right. Have a good night, everybody. If you have questions, let us know.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.